Hello there, girls and boys. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Inner Sanctum, the place where I show you all of the tricks that I do and how I pull them off live in front of you. And this is the first time that we live stream in this year of the Lord of 2025. So I welcome you to this new era in human history. And also, I want to say that I hope you had great and fun times with your family and those you allegedly love during the holiday season. How about you, Tiago Ramini?
Hello, girls and boys.
Enthusiastic and insane.
Of course. I'm actually glad to be back, and it's great to have you here as well, because
Allegedly.
there has been a bit of a hiatus due to, well,
Obvious
the
reasons.
obvious, but it is good to be back.
Yeah, so we're back in action, and today we're gonna be starting off the year by making sure that everybody understands the concepts behind music production, because it's something that I'm gonna try to address some of the questions that have popped up in the different live streams that we have had during the last few months. So I want to make sure that everybody understands what's going to be explained throughout the year, because this year is going to be quite important for us in the way that we develop the whole concept of the channel and also the whole operation in this dubious building. So let's begin with this. So here we go. Welcome back, girls and boys, to Logic Pro 11. In front of us we got the project that we're going to be using to, explain everything that pertains to music production, and I'm going to try to be as broad when it comes to the scope, and also I'm going to try to be as noob friendly as possible, with all due respect. And for those of you who are veterans in this whole thing and are watching, such as you, Robbie, great to have you here, man. I would love to hear your takes on the concepts explained here, because it could be that you can propose some different techniques or some different approaches that some of the guys who are getting their toes into the water of music production could be benefited from. So please feel free to add to whatever I'm showcasing here, because that's the whole point of this live stream. So let's begin with the obvious. What on earth is a Logic Pro 11?
That's kind of, yeah.
We have to start there. Well, you see, girls and boys, when a man loves... No.
In the beginning of time.
Look, Logic is part of a series of programs, computer programs known as DAWs. A DAW stands for Digital Audio Workstation. And those, as the name implies, are the kind of devices, software that we use to work with audio and attempt to create music. Logic in particular has plenty of features that makes it unique. You probably have heard of Reason, Reaper, Ableton Live, Big Wig Studio, Luna, what else? Mixbus, Cubase, several. There are plethoras. And Studio, there are many. Even GarageBand is a DAW. It's basically Logic's little brother. Now, what a DAW does, among many things, is controlling two different types of signals. One is audio signal, which is, of course, what you're hearing right now. And the other one is MIDI signals. And I'm going to stick to those for the time being, okay? So let's begin with audio. Everything in a DAW, and one thing, big disclaimer, everything that you're going to see is not exclusive to Logic. I'm going to avoid using any form of exclusive feature that Logic has to offer. So everything explained here should be, and can be, and has to be replicated on any other form of digital audio workstation. Good? Let's go. Now, every form of a DAW is going to work with something similar to a channel strip. What is a channel strip? A channel strip is following the next order. Is the way or the signal path on which any source of audio is going to be processed and summed up for it to be outputted through the stereo bus, which is what you are hearing right now and what we hear over here in the studio. Okay? Each channel strip is comprised of an input, an insert section, a send, more on that later, and an output. As simple as that. The input will be the one that you select to produce a sound, okay? And the output is what is controlled by your fader. It's incredibly important disclaimer. When you're recording audio, which is the first type of channel strip that we're going to be working on, you control the input, how hot the signal is coming in to the DAW with your gain on your preamp or interface, and you control how hot it goes out, what you hear, and what your victims will hear by controlling the fader. Okay? And just for the record, open up the shot, Diego, please. This thing is a MIDI controller or a control surface if I am much more precise. It can do MIDI, but more on that on a different video. And I can control my faders, the digital faders in Logic, through the use of this. Do you need this? No. Do I have it? Why? Because I'm that kind of people. But no, it has its uses, but that's big boy toys that we will have a discussion later. Coming back to this. So we're going to be mostly working with this. So let's begin. Let's talk about the first kind of audio channel. The first kind of channel we're going to be working with is going to be the audio channel. So we're going to create one. And I'm going to make sure that it's corresponding to the input of my interface. I'm going to create the channel. And here, you can see over here, and look at this. Zoom is back. So we're going to make sure that the input of our channel is the same input that I will have the signal coming in. What kind of signal, you might be wondering. I'm going to be playing my guitar. How am I going to do it? I'm going to be using, of course, a cable. Huge step forward in technology. Look at this. I'm going to be using a cable, but this cable is going into a particular device. It's not going straight into my interface. Let me explain. We're going to be rocking a DI box. A DI box is a very interesting device because it has several uses. Maybe if you have played in front of an audience, you have had to send the output of your bass preamp, for example, if you're rocking a Sense amp, to one of these bad boys, and this is what is sent back to the board that is used to broadcast the music to the audience. But why am I going to use it here? Super cool and super good question. I'm glad that you didn't ask, Tiago. You can see that it's outputting through the use of an XLR cable, not an instrument cable. It's because I'm going to be recording the output of the DI, but the DI has this extra output here. We're going to be using the guitar. You're going to be using the input of the DI to feed the guitar into the DI, and we're going to be outputting that guitar out through the XLR output. But if I wanted, I could use this through output to create a duplicate of my guitar and feed this amplifier that I got here if I wanted to. In this case, I won't be doing it because, well, it's a live stream and I want to cover as much ground as possible. But you can see why this is so useful. Now, the first thing is this. We're going to make sure that we're selecting the correct input. And no, we're not, because we're using input number 8 for my guitar. So I'm going to switch it here. Input number 8. Then, in Logic, you got these controls over here, which stands for many things. The I stands for input monitoring. This is the one that I'm going to turn on, which is now going to allow my guitar to be audible to every single one of us. So first thing, how do you set the gain of your interface or preamp to receive guitar signal correctly? Great question. You'll see a preamp, it's actually incrementing or increasing, if I use better terminology, the amount of energy being perceived by your interface. The more you push the preamp, the harder the signal becomes, and the louder the perceived loudness of the instrument is going to be. So, right now, you can hear anything. It's barely coming in. But if I start to crank up the gain on my preamp, it's going to become audible. Let me show you. And I'm going to stop there. That was awful. Sorry about that. But I wanted to make a point. When recording guitar, if you push the preamp too much, you're going to start to create actual distortion at a preamp level. Sometimes it's beneficial, but the vast majority of times it sounds terrible, especially because you are converting the signal from your guitar into digital information. That's a very big can of worms, but just as a rule of thumb, the sound of digital distortion is bad, the sound of analog distortion is good. Okay? I'm going to put it there. So let's do it again. But I'm going to show you this. Over here, I got the controls to set the sound. Now, these are the actual controls of my interface. You can even see my voice coming in here. And Tiago, speak.
Hey.
Look at that. That's his voice. Now, This is the controls for my interface in this room. This is the Antelope audio controller for the discrete 8 synergy core. The preamp we're using in question is this guy. And let's begin. How much do we have to push our gain on the preamp of my interface for it to be understood by my computer correctly and not distorted? We're going to do this. For as long as you play, if you push the preamp hard enough for it not to clip when you hit the hardest chord to play, you're going to be ready for the races. So let's do it. And yes, I can control it from here as well. Let's do it. I clipped. So let's back it off a little bit. And usually, out of my experience, this preamp and this guitar behaves quite nicely between each other when I set it to 30. Yeah, now it's set.
Quick question.
Go.
A guitar also have knobs
Yes.
that control the amount of signal being sent out of it. So how do you tackle the whole issue of that you're just mentioning, the gain that's going to be added to the preamp,
Yes.
taking into account that you have a stage that happens even before that?
That's why you do it with the volume knob all the way up. One thing, and that's a great question actually. The circuits on electric guitars tend to be passive in the sense of them actually being cutting signal rather than increasing the output. That's why just by simply connecting a cable to your guitar, it works. Okay? There are some active pickups that requires batteries, but that's just to change it's due to the architecture of the pickups themselves. Okay? It's like phantom power actually. It's phantom power. If you have ever hold a condenser microphone, those active pickups are the equivalent in the pickup world. Okay? So let's begin recording. Let's do it. Great piece of advice. Never, 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 never in the history of the world dare to record at the very beginning of any given project. Why? Sometimes you need to have a little a bar or two for certain aspects of the song to kick in. That's rule number one. Rule number two. Sometimes it's going to be impossible for everybody to hit it right at the beginning of the countdown. So the counting, sorry. So you're gonna have some of the information cut off from the very beginning, if that makes sense. The first note is gonna be partially recorded. You'll see how that affects later. So my recommendation: always record 1, 2 bars ahead. Okay. So let's begin. And also another thing. Let me do this. Let's kind of dump. I'm gonna use something in Logic that is called, you might have to remove the overlays, please. Yes. Thank you. This is the controls that affects the click track or the metronome in this project, and that applies to every DAW again. And you can see that it's set to click while recording, but also you can change it to be only click during count in. If you already have an idea of how the flow of the signal of the song goes, you might remove this guy, but just make sure that this guy is on. Another thing, over here we got the counting. How many bars do we want to have before the recording happens? What is going to happen is that Logic, as soon as you press R on your keyboard, which is going to trigger the recording engine, is going to push the playhead a bar behind, and then it's going to start recording here. Now you see why I told you to never record at the very beginning. So let's begin. Let's do it. Here we go. A little bit sloppy, right? Let's do it again. I'm going to show you something that is now quite common in different DAWs, which is known as a take folder here in Logic, but some others DAWs call it comping. That means that we are going to record on top of that blue rectangle here, which is known as a region in Logic, and we're going to record the next take on top of this one, and you'll see what happens. Here we go. Way better. But now something funky happened. Over here, let me just getting used to the new controls. I don't need it. Ah! Here we go. These guys here, we got two regions now, and both of them are kinda one on top of the other. The gray one is the previous take. The blue one is the one that I got. But see what happens here. If I drag the section, I can actually color one on the other. And as you might have guessed, this is actually blending both regions into one. Since the first one is way superior than the second one, I'm gonna stick to the first one. Good. Now we understand the first concept, which is recording audio. Now I'm gonna introduce you to another section of this brief introduction to music production. We're gonna be dealing with a loop. What is a loop, Diego?
Okay, where am I?
You should be there.
A loop is a pre-recorded sound or well, sounds that you can bring into your project and loop them, and they are gonna be a part of the music that you're writing.
Yeah, kinda very simplified version, but yes, you're correct.
Yeah, don't know how to make it a little bit deeper.
Loops are usually samples. It's a take of a particular performance of any given instrument or any given sound that have the particularity of them being able to adapt to the tempo of any song. Okay. Logic, this is has a built-in library of loops that you can use to your hard content. Some other softwares have the same, some others don't, but you can buy packs of loops. You can download them from other sources as well, and you can use them to your hard content. Just make sure that they are royalty free, because if you are sampling or you're recording a song and then chop it up and use it for a bit, for example, you might run the risk of drawing the attention of the lawyers for the artist that you are using his music from. Okay, so here we go. These guys, I know for a fact that they are royalty free, so I will be able to use them to my hard content. So let's see. I'm gonna use this guy, it's already selected, and I'm gonna simply drag and drop, and look at that. It created its own channel, and it's already been feeding, it's sending the output of that channel into the summing bus, which is what we're using to hear. You can hear us, and we can hear the music. So I'm gonna simply do this, which will create a repetition of the loop, as you can see, all the way down to this point, which is when it stops. This is a unique feature of Logic. But what happens if you don't have Logic? No problem. You simply copy the same. And voila, we got the same. One thing, I want you to pay attention to this section over here. As you can tell, it says that this tempo, the tempo of this particular loop is 130 BPMs. My track is 114. What would happen if I press play? It worked. How or why? Because when you are using this kind of loops, they have a particularity which is known as, in Pro Tools, is known as time compression expansion. In Logic is known as flex time. In our softwares, I don't know, but they have to have another fancy way to describe it. And the way that they work is by this. Look, if I do this, and hopefully it will show it. No, it won't, but you'll see. I'm gonna show it to you with the use of this guy. This has nothing to do with the explanation, but it's just for you to understand exactly how a loop works. I'm gonna remove this window over here, and I will address your question, your comment, Robbie. Give me a sec. You can see that a bunch of lines appear. Those lines are trying to, is Logic, in this case, trying to see where the starting point of each of the notes played by my guitar happen during the performance and for how long. This is what allows a loop to change position, because if I select one of these lines and I move it, see what happens? That's known as elastic time. And I think that's Pro Tools terminology again. So that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So what the loop is basically doing is chopping up the sections of the loop and then forcing the starting point of each of those points to correlate to the tempo of the track. How does that happens? That's heavy math involved. But let me take a look at what he's saying. Robbie's saying loops are usually musical bits of samples that span over 4 bars, 8 bars, etc., based on the project tempo. Exactly. Better explained than I did. Thank you, Robbie. But yeah, exactly that. They have their uses and they are pretty fun to use. The only thing is that they have been overused, in my not so humble opinion. Okay, so now we understand the whole point of a loop. Let's do something fun. You can see that we are outputting the signal of my guitar, DI guitar, mind you, through the use of my sound bus, which is what we're using here. It's exactly what we're using to output the signal into the speakers here. But what if I tell you that we can use the different outputs of our interface to do many more things? Enter the concept of reamping, and finally explaining why in the name of F we have this amplifier here doing nothing. Reamping, it's a very fantastic tool which in simple terms will allow me to use the recorded signal of my guitar going lamely into my interface, just what I recorded, output it and then feed it into my amplifier here, and then return the amplifier sound through the use of this box that I will explain to you a little bit later, into the computer again, allowing me to record it direct. Badass, right? So let's do it. First, the amplifier in question. This is a Wangs BT15, and yes, it might remind you of a certain disease that happened in 2020, because it comes from the same place. But unlike certain people, I actually changed everything inside. The only thing that is original is the box. Everything inside is my own design. Okay, and I actually did. So a friend of mine is actually has an amplifier shop on which they actually modify and work on all sorts of musical equipment, and I got this as a gift, and then I didn't like it, and I made sure that I liked it later. But it's in clear need of some maintenance, but more on that later. Now, it has the sound of weird ass Marshall Plexi a little bit. It's not that hot, I gotta tell you that. It's not that aggressive sounding, but it has a very nice clean with a little bit of dirt. So you're gonna see what happens once we ramp. The output is being fed into this guy. This is a Rivera Mini Rock Rec. This is a load box, which allows the output of my amplifier to be inserted into this guy without the amplifier catching flames, like California right now. Have you seen?
No.
It's very bad, man. It's very bad. It was not necessarily a joke. It's actually terrible.
Oh,
but
wow.
once again, why do I mention that? The thing is that an amplifier needs to be able to see with heavy quote unquote a speaker, otherwise it's gonna blow up. And this guy actually is seen by the amplifier as a speaker, releasing all of the voltage that it's created here into the speaker, and then into the so-called speaker, and from here we're getting just the sound of the amplifier without any form of a speaker whatsoever, allowing you to use an insanely powerful amplifier without destroying the ozone layer. Good, so let's do it. How am I gonna be able to do it? Easy. Let's begin by getting the cabling correctly. I need first this cable here, and this guy is gonna be just like this. The amplifier is gonna be fed by this cable. Got it? Done. Look at that, beautiful. Then the cable. This cable, this end of the cable, is gonna be introduced into my interface, one of the outputs of my interface. The thing is this interface in particular has two outputs that are designed to be used for this particular purpose. In case yours doesn't have that, you need a box such as this one. This is a reamp box made by Saturn Works, and as you can see, it's been with me for ages, and it's still rocking flawlessly. What does this thing do? The signal outputted by an interface is known as line level, and it's the kind of signal that you need to use to drive up an amplifier, but not a guitar amplifier, an amplifier for speakers, okay? It's the same signal that is being outputted by a synthesizer or DI boxes, certain DI boxes, okay? Now, why am I in need of a DI box or of an reamp box? Because the amplifier, the guitar amplifier, is actually expecting something known as instrument level, which is a lower, it's a tinier signal, if that makes sense to you. Okay.
What does happen to the equipment if you send a line level?
Nothing, but it's gonna hit the amplifier way harder, and you're not gonna get the exact replicate of the guitar. That's the reason. This interface actually has reamp calibrated outputs. I'm gonna plug it in those. So Tiago, please avoid them from looking at my nether regions.
Yeah, so they don't see something that they will regret.
They shouldn't.
But look, so I'm gonna take the opportunity first to say Happy New Year to Robbie, because I haven't addressed that myself, and also say that the chat is open to everybody, not only Robbie.
Everybody.
And there's a reason why we do this live, is that we can introduce you to these concepts and can also answer your questions on the spot. So if you have comments, if you have questions, please don't shy away from leaving them in the comment section, and we will address them.
Okay, it's set now. So look at this. Right now, I'm gonna show you first the controls of the interface again, just for you to see exactly what I meant with this. This is the analog output section of my interface. Okay, this is controlled. This is what is controlled by by the software is controlling this. Here we got reamp 1 and reamp 2. Right now, I plugged my cable into reamp output 1, which corresponds in my computer as computer output 11. Let's do it like that. Here we go. In Logic, I'm gonna remove the flex time. I'm gonna select this guy to be, instead of sum, I'm gonna click here, go to output, mono, and I'm gonna select 11. And just to make sure that I'm not doing something very stupid, confirming it. Yeah, 11. Good. If I press play, we won't be able to hear the guitar because obviously it's been outputted to the real world. So what I'm gonna do is this. I'm gonna create a new channel here. Audio, thank you very much. And now I'm gonna confirm, I'm gonna take a look at my interface just to see which input am I using. So Tiago, please do it again.
Once again, okay. So should it be a joke or what?
No, got it. It's okay. Input number 3.
Okay, that was very quick.
Yeah.
No joke for you guys today, sorry.
So there we go. So I'm gonna select here on Logic, show it, please. On Logic, I'm gonna select input number 3. Bam. And I'm gonna check if I'm getting the signal. I'm gonna make sure that we got monitoring input on. Then, hopefully, we should be getting something out of the amplifier. Allegedly. Let's see. Let's check on my software here. Input number 3. Oh, we want. Why? Let me explain. Totally not because I did it in purpose. Over here in the controls, and hey Maya, Harry Maya, good to have you here. Over here we got this issue for some reason. If I zoom in, you can see that my interface actually has a microphone icon. What does that mean? Right now, it's only gonna accept XLR connections. The way that I have connected this guy, the mini box, the mini rock rack, is through the use of an actual instrument cable, so I gotta change it. How do you do it? Simply by clicking. And let's see now. Here we go. I'm gonna send signal here. I'm gonna create a loop. How do you do that? A looping region, just by clicking over here and dragging and making sure that this is correctly put. Here we go. Nothing. Why? Let's see. I'm gonna use my cable just to make sure that the input is being seen by the amplifier. No. So what's wrong? What's wrong? Let's see. Input, the output is correct. The input is correct here. So why it's not coming in? Let me check. Another way to test it again, I'm gonna unplug this cable, which is the one that is coming out. Let's touch it. Beautiful. Nothing happens. Let's see again. Nothing happens. There is. When you see the jump, it's because you're getting signal. The thing is that it's way too low. I already have the amplifier all the way up and nothing changed. The preamp. Why is that? There is. Okay, good. So now let's do it again. Different thing.
Okay, so first and foremost, I know that this live stream is trying to cover quite a lot of ground. It's attempting to cover quite a lot of ground.
Yeah.
But if we're moving too fast on anything, or you feel that there are some questions left unanswered, please let us know, because we know for a fact that there's quite a lot that is being tackled here. Many new concepts, many different applications for many new pieces of technology. So if you feel stuck on anything that was said or shown, please let us know.
Yes, please do. Now let me see, because I don't know if the amp is that in that real need of maintenance that it's already failing. Yeah, it seems that it's like it. Okay, no problem. It's proving to you that it's live. Let me try to come up with a plan for this. We can use a different amp. Yes, we can, but don't know if time will allow for it. Let's play by ear. Let's do this. I'm gonna show you first how to do it with a plugin, and then we're gonna do it with this. I'm gonna turn it off, and hopefully it's gonna rest for a while, and then it will come back to us. The beauties of analog gear. I'm gonna bring back the output of this channel to be the sum, and from here we would be able now to hear the guitar again. Okay, so I'm gonna insert the first instrument, the first plugin. You have heard that word before, but a plugin is basically speaking a mini program that does a particular and a specific function. Sometimes they are mimicking the way or the behavior of an analog piece of gear, such as a guitar amplifier, and that's what we're gonna be using. In here, I have my guitar amplifier section here, and I'm gonna select even the amp designer that comes with Logic. Again, as I stated before, no actual external or third-party plugins being used. This comes loaded with Logic, and I can assure you that any other form of DAW will have the same. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna press play, and the guitar should sound different. Very different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's play around with this guy. This is, of course, controlling the gain, so if I push it, we're going to start to develop more distortion. Let's see. Not bad. This is kind of replicating the sound of a Box AC30, if I am correct. And it does it in a way better way than I expected, because it's been a while since I used the Logic built-in guitar amplifiers, but they are actually way better than before. And thank you, well, Robbie saying the beauty of going live, balls of steel. Well, yeah,
still on the edge.
yeah, living on the edge. So, one thing that makes the whole thing with guitars recorded directly to an interface so difficult to do correctly is what I explained to you at the beginning. Many of us either record our guitars way too hot or way too quiet. And depending on how well or how correctly our guitars were recorded, the effects or the reaction of the plugins used or the reamp used will vary. That's why it's very important for you to make sure that you're recording your guitar going in at the right level. We did it correctly. That's why as soon as I inserted this bad boy, we started to get a proper sound. So let's play around with it a little bit more. This is a very basic layout. We got the bass, the mids, and the treble. And of course, the more you push each of the knobs is gonna have an effect on it. Okay, I like it. Now, this is the important part. A guitar amplifier, it's only half of the equation. You also need a cabinet. That's what is that's why using the box over here is for. But here's the big deal. This guy, as you can see, already has some form of a cabinet graphic over here, and also a microphone. If I move it around over here, you can see that it's even trying to give you a visual representation of what is happening. I'm going to press play, and you're going to start to see something magical happen. Great, right?
Okay, yeah.
Why do you think that happened, Theo?
The change.
Yes, because it almost felt like I was EQing.
You were.
Yeah, I actually was.
Well, the thing that thinking on real life scenario, not only on the replica that the software is doing here, the positioning of the mic is gonna completely change the way that the sound is being perceived.
Exactly.
And well, I think suppose you're gonna go into how that affects EQing per se, but that's a really big game changer, not only a detail.
It is a gigantic game changer, and I gotta say that I'm quite impressed. Again, it's been a while since I used the built-in Logic recreations, the modelers, and they have improved a lot. This guy sounds very good. I'm quite impressed. And the reason why it's behaving as such is because when you actually are recording a cabinet, depending on the kind of microphone, depending on the distance of the microphone from the grill of the cabinet, and the angle on which is being recorded, you're gonna start to get different. You're gonna start to capture different sounds, and it's up to you, the engineer, to position the microphone correctly in a way that serves the sound of the song. When I said EQing, I wasn't necessarily joking, because if you look at positioning your microphone as a way to EQ, for example, let's say that you're getting a lot of low noise, low end on your guitar sound. Just by simply moving the microphone a few inches from the position you got, you might get rid of that sound and actually get a much mid-range driven sound, which is what usually guitars are meant to be doing. Let me address this comment. Robbie's saying that there are many options on how to record guitars straight into a DAW. But as you say, the main thing is recording it correctly at the right level. Yeah, there are many methodologies, but I am so dumb that I like to use it. I like to follow the KISS methodology, which is keep it simple, stupid. And yeah, you get it. Here, Robbie says another comment. Maybe it would be easier just to use amp guitar sims, as most people can do this easily and won't need all of the equipment you have. Yes, I was trying just to make a point, just for them to see the richness, and the expansion, the scope of this. Because one of the things that you can do, if you don't happen to own a badass guitar amplifier, no worries. You can record it, as I am doing right now, and then you can send it to someone like me, for example, that owns a good chunk of amps, and they can be reamped in a professional studio, and you can get a badass sound without having to break the bank. Makes sense, right?
Makes sense, yes.
But the only way for that to happen is by recording your guitars correctly. That's why I'm trying to put as much stress on this. And
I
the next
have
one,
a quick question coming back a step there. You were talking about doing the EQing with the microphone.
Yes.
But why EQing with a microphone is hard? Let's put it as harder.
Go.
Okay. Why would you go through the trouble of EQing it with the microphone if you can EQ it with an equalizer later on?
Because it's faster, because it's easier. No, because you already have the solution to a big problem that could bite you by the ass later on.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because when mixing, if you think that while recording that I'll fix it in the mix. No, it never works like that. If you don't record it correctly, and it sounds bad at the beginning, it's gonna sound worst once the mix begins. Why? Because the engineer is gonna waste most of his time, the mixing engineer is gonna waste most of his time trying to fix problems rather than pushing the good stuff out. So garbage in, garbage out. And if you think that you can get away with garbage in general, the only thing you're gonna do is send garbage to the mixing engineer, and the mixing engineer, if it's a good one, is gonna give you very beautiful garbage. Get me? Very clean garbage.
Polished garbage.
Yeah, yeah. Here, Harry Maya is saying, yes, the mix starts right from the beginning of the recording. At least people say that and makes sense. Of course, we can edit in the mixing phase, but yeah, it's better to record the best way possible. Then the mixing phase will be easier, 100%, man. Because it's look, whenever I'm dealing with somebody else's mixes, I always try to be part of the production cycle to a certain degree without being a big nose in their way. I just make sure that I am dealing with someone who knows what he's doing and that will assure that whenever I have to mix everything they recorded was done to a standard that will allow for a good result to happen. If it's messy, it's gonna be basically impossible for me to get it sounding professional, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Now, Rob is saying here, I think we have to make a distinction between tracking and setting up a recording session or composing to create ideas. It's all different. Good point, Rob. Actually, you are correct. Right now, this is an exercise. This is not necessarily intended to be seen as the end result. But what Rob is saying is correct. Whenever I'm writing music, I usually do it in the dirtiest possible fashion. If I show you some of my drafts for the music that we produce here, they are terrible. They are doing everything that I'm not doing right now. Okay? But why? Because when inspiration happens, you gotta get the idea out first, and then you can come back to it to fix it and do it correctly later. Make sense? Mm-hmm. But in this case, since we're trying to showcase the importance of doing it correctly and how to do it correctly easily, I'm putting so much stress on it. But good point, Robbie. Good point. Now, Robbie mentioned using some effects as well. I will later because I want to cover something else. We've been talking about audio channel strips this whole time. There's a big elephant in the room, which is MIDI. And let's pretend, or let's say that you are in your bedroom in front of your laptop. You have no, you don't play rock music, okay? You don't play with guitars. You're actually an electronic music producer. What would you do? You would use loops. We already discussed loops. But you could also use what is known as a virtual instrument, which is what MIDI is all about. Let me explain. Over here, girls and boys, I already have here a channel strip that is empty. I'm gonna put it here.
It is green.
And it's green. Why would it be green? In Logic, green channel strips are usually MIDI. Blue channel strips are usually audio. But why do I say usually? Because you can do this. So yeah.
Now you made a mess out of things.
I made a mess. Why? No, good point. Look at this. My region is orange, but my channel strip is still blue. How do I know? Look, in the mixer, it's still blue. Good, important point. If you change colors, and that's something that I hate in Logic, but there is a reason why it's done like this. If you change colors in what is known as the arrangement window, where all of these blocks happens, you're going to change just the colors of the regions. But if you change the color on the mixing area, the channel strip changes. But let me give you an example here with the guitar. The channel strip changes, but the region didn't. Why does that happen? Because when you are, let's say that you're writing an stupidly pretentious and audacious song that starts at 0.0 and it ends at 20 minutes after.
Who would do such a thing?
Who would do such a thing? You might find the need of coloring certain regions to attract certain points of attention for you as the composer, right? That's why it's done like this. It's annoying because most of the time you want both the regions and the channel strips to match colors. How do you fix it? Easy. Right click on the here, and you will use this option here, which says color regions by tracks, and it's done. The same happens here. Color regions by track, but you select everything just to make sure because there are many regions. Color regions by track. Bam! So now both are correct. Now, MIDI. MIDI is a stupidly big, powerful, amazing, beautiful realm of misunderstanding. First, let me make sure that my output is being correctly output it so you can hear it and also us can hear it over here. Done. And what are we going to do? First, we're going to insert the source. You can see that the difference between my channel strip, the regular one, the audio, and the instrument, as you can see here, I'm going to even do colors, look that! Whatever, you saw it.
Wizard?
Yeah. What kind of wizard is that? No. You can see that inputs or audio tracks requires an input, while instruments doesn't have an input. They have an inst. What does that? What on earth is that? If you click on it, it's gonna show you the plugin menu. In reality, what you got here is actually virtual instruments. What are those? Let's pick again. We're not gonna use anything outside of Logic. The humble RetroSynth. What is RetroSynth? This is an emulation of several different synthesizers, and it sounds like this. One pro tip: if you hold Command and K on your keyboard, you can bring this. This is the musical typing thing, which, as you can imagine, turns my keyboard into a keyboard. Mozart, yeah, look at that. No, actually, it allows me to control the virtual instruments of my session with the use of my keyboard, built-in keyboard. Of course, there's a huge problem with this. By design, these kind of keyboards, right now I'm rocking this guy. This is a mechanical keyboard. I don't even remember. It's Keychron, whatever. Good one. I totally recommend it. Very, very good. Very robust. And it's not loud, because I hate loud keyboards, but I start to develop some form of problems with my fingers due to using the regular the Apple keyboard for real. So whatever. You cannot play more than 4 keys at the same time. Why? Reasons. So forget about those fancy chords. But it will help you to map out the bass line. So let's do that. Let me make sure that we open up. Look, this is the issue as well. You gotta remove it because your controls are gone. MIDI works like this. Let me get you familiar with the sound of the guitar. Got it. So let's do it. Let's change the key. Here we go. Recording. Awful.
Beautiful.
Beautiful beyond belief. Totally not done on purpose, of course. Now look, partially. No, look, what I want to show you is this. Unlike audio, MIDI is fully editable. Not edible, editable.
You can try, but I don't recommend.
Yeah, no, don't try it. It tastes very awful. This is what is known as a piano roll. Why? Because there is a piano here and there is a roll. No, it's simply because it's trying to follow the principles of those auto piano things from the Wild West that used a roll to play music by their own. Please remind me the name of those machines because they are kind of intriguing to me. But it's basically that. Or if you are old enough to have programmed stuff in the 60s, you actually wrote programs on pieces of paper with holes on it. And just a fun fact, why do you think it's called debugging when fixing problems in software, Theo, do you know?
I actually don't. Why is it?
Because back in those days, bugs used to start up families in those holes, and you only realized once you tried to read your program.
Okay,
and
so
it
was actually getting rid of bugs.
You gotta debug it.
Okay.
Okay.
That is a fun fact.
It is a fun fact. Okay, now, MIDI has the particularity of it being able to be edited to our heart contents, and as you can see, all of the terrible notes that I played are still presented here to us. And I'm gonna turn this off. Pro tip: this is in Logic, but I can assure you that the same happens in different DAWs. This is MIDI out. If I turn it off, thank God, we can manipulate our MIDI signal without the need of actually hearing to your performance, listening to your performance. So look, as you can see, I can position, change the size, change the intensity of the note by pushing the velocity, and even redoing the entire track without having to perform again by my own through the use of MIDI. Badass. has plenty of uses, and one of them is this. Look at this. I'm gonna destroy this awful piece of nothing, and let me show you something extra. This is built in Logic, but just for you to see the power of MIDI. Of many. Here, once again bringing back my keyboard, you can see that there is the limitation that I told you. I cannot play no more than 4. Look. There's 3, 4, 5, and if I might be able to pull off a 6 note chord, but no more. There are mechanical problems here because I simply don't have enough room. And also, I only have 1 octave to work with. But Logic has this feature. And this is just as an example. I'm not going to use, don't try this at home. This is something known as MIDI plugins. This is exclusive to Logic, but it's just to make a point. This has plenty of effects that are only affecting not the sound, but the MIDI information. The little rectangles that I showed you. I'm going to use this guy, Chord Trigger. That's a plugin. See what happens if I press 1 note. Okay, starting to sound techno, right?
Yeah. Very.
Yeah, very cool, right?
You got a hit in your hands.
Yeah, already. So look, let's play around with this. I'm gonna use the same. I'm gonna run with my guitar, mute it, and let's do something techno because we're actually rocking some form of techno a bit. See what happens. Okay, that last one was terrible, but let's fix it over here. I'm going to use my MIDI out, and you can see that it's only 1 note. What this plugin is doing, it's taking the note, the one that I pressed, being represented by these rectangles. Let me remove this guy. Being represented by these rectangles, and multiplies it following the chord progression that is here. This is basically just sending extra notes to triggered by the note that you already pressed. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Good. And if I move over here to the one that I didn't like, that's better. I'm going to remove this section out, or get out like in Argentina. So let's see. Okay, it's kind of good, but it's kind of sloppy, right? One of the extra benefits of MIDI, you can select them all by using Command A, and you can go here and quantize. Quantize forces each of the notes on my MIDI region to append to any of the different points in my grid. Now, allegedly, everything should be super sharp.
Some might say too sharp.
Too sharp, actually, right? You also felt it, right? Like, way too sharp. There are ways to fix that, and one of them is using your hands and actually playing music. The other one, highly recommended. The other one is actually using some of the MIDI functions. That's now getting into the Logic territory, so I'm going to stop there. But so far, so good, I want to believe. Then, I'm going to use retro synth just to shape up the sound of our synth. I'm not going to explain to you how our synthesizer works on its entirety, but I'm going to just showcase some of the ways that a synthesizer works, just for us to understand the principles. A synthesizer uses an oscillator, which is what is creating the sound that we're listening to. It could be more than one oscillator and then summed up in a mixer. I'm starting to go way ahead, but usually you're going to find oscillators, not usually, by force. Oscillators, a filter, an amplifier, which is what is actually doing what you might imagine, making the oscillators audible, and an envelope, if you're lucky. This guy has them all. Look at that. Badass. So let's play around with it. What happens if I change this guy? We got 2 oscillators in RetroSynth, so let's play around with the first one. I'm going to go for oscillator 1 only. How do you know? Here, this is the mixer, and you can blend them between oscillator 1 and oscillator 2. Oscillator 1 sounds like this. Oscillator 2 sounds like this. The same. Why? Because both are playing the same freaking shape. Let's change it. Oscillator 2, Oscillator 1. Both. Not bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
One super pro tip, you're gonna love this if you are intending on doing some EDM. These semitones actually, it's gonna detune Oscillator 2 by little increments or decrements in comparison to the sound of our first oscillator. We'll create a chorus effect if done correctly. See what happens. Sorry, I meant cents. Semitones is actually changing the tuning of this oscillator, and it's done by huge increments, as you could hear. Let me push it to the octave. I like it. Now I'm gonna do the trick that I told you. It's this guy.
Yeah.
Badass, right?
Yeah, pretty cool.
Okay. Now, what does the filter do? The filter, as the name suggests, cuts stuff out. See what happens. Cool. Filters usually have a resonance point, which is this. See what happens. Okay. What it's doing, as the shape implies, is creating this little hump that is hyping up a particular reference or a particular frequency on our sound. We are cutting everything from this line forward right now, and this point is actually enhanced, and the rest is passing through naturally. It has plenty of uses. For example, let's say that we use a different oscillator to control the speed of the filter, because what would be the best would be able to do this automatically, right? But I can't.
Why?
Because I don't have enough hands, man. But I can use an LFO. An LFO is a low frequency oscillator, which is gonna do this. Look at this. Vibrato, right? That sucks. Yeah, but it's because we're way too fast. Let's decrease it. Let's go slower here. Look. And now let's see how it sounds in the context of our mess. I actually liked it. Let's do a little bit more damage. Now we're going to introduce the concept of plugins. Plugins are effects, and you are going to always use them here using the insert section. I'm going to add a little bit of reverb. Reverb is an effect that we use to recreate the sound of a space through artificial methods. It could be used to such a fashion, but you can also use it for sound design. And just to keep it logic, we're going to use Chroma Verb. Again, not native instrument, an actual built-in plugin. This guy is this good. Cool, right?
I didn't know that the guy was actually native.
It is. And it looks like it doesn't look like a built-in plugin, right?
No.
It looks fancy.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. No, this is a very good plugin, and we're gonna introduce you to something known as presets. The bane of my existence. I never use them, but most people do. What is a preset? It's predetermined by who knows who set of parameters for the given instrument or plugin you're using. And they tend to be kind of close to something, but they never deliver, in my opinion, because who knows under which circumstances those parameters were dialed. And I always recommend you to make your own sounds by hand, because that's how you learn to use your stuff. But let's say that you are very, very early in your career and you're learning and you're testing stuff around. And one of the uses for presets, in my opinion, and this is actually very good, is to test the limits of your plugin. Let's try something dumb. Big wave. Cool.
Yeah.
You can see that you can start to develop some very fun sounds. So I'm going to keep it there. Final thing that we have to discuss is MIDI again. But did you know that you can actually use your computer to control not just your computer instruments, but also, let me make sure that we're looking at the same. Yeah. Yes. You can actually, excellent timing, well done. No, you can actually control instruments in the real world through the use of MIDI. And let me lift it up. We're going to be using the Motor 32, just as an example, of course. And this guy should work. We're going to be doing this through the use of a MIDI cable. Actually, they are named like that, MIDI to USB cable. I'm going to be connecting my computer, my Logic session, to this guy. How to do it? First, we're going to go back to Logic. And in here, we're going to create yet another instrument. MIDI instrument, please. Thank you very much. And we're going to select, it could be in the mixer or in the inspector. It's up to you. It's the same. We're going to select the sound generating section of our channel strip is not going to be a virtual instrument. We're going to go for external instrument that could be found all the way down here. Utility, external instrument. And this is again a built-in plugin, and this is how a built-in plugin in Logic looks like. That's why Chrome is like, okay. Yeah. What are we gonna do? First, without going down the rabbit hole of MIDI and its channels and how complex it can get, we're gonna select the channel on which this. First, we're gonna select the destination. In this case, is my Mayo interface or cable, USB cable, and I'm gonna select channel to all. You got all sorts of channels because I don't remember to which channel I set this guy. I think it's channel 2 or channel 1, but I don't remember. And since I'm not gonna look like an even bigger dumb person, I'm gonna avoid it. And of course, I'm gonna make sure that I have the output of this guy connected correctly. For this, I'm gonna use the same freaking cable that failed on me. Because that there, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Living on the edge, I suppose.
Living on the edge. We do need to get that sound back.
Yeah, we do.
And allegedly, if everything goes according to the plan, let me confirm. I don't know. Let me check, because it should be. Of course, it's not working anything at any given time because where's the other end of the cable, man?
The blue one.
Yeah, no, the black one. No, I'm racist. Damn it.
That's the cable from my camera.
Okay, so I need that cable, man. Entertain.
Okay.
It's somewhere. But it got lost.
Okay, so I'll actually ask you a question. If you can answer, I'll relay the question here to the answer here.
Go.
The external instrument plugin.
Yes.
Is it something that is Logic only, or are we expected to find something like it in any other DAW?
You should be able to find any equivalent to this in any major respectable DAW. You should. But for example, the other day I totally wasn't mixing on Luna, and I wanted to use some of my rack for a particular sound, and lo and behold, I couldn't. Why? Because there is no way on earth on which you can, professionally speaking, hook up as an insert any of the hardware stuff you might have access to as you would in Logic or Pro Tools. Oh! Very bad. Very bad. But whatever. Last show before Christmas, the proposal was raise about collaborating on a track. Yes, man, and we're gonna do it because we were expecting you to get here, and we have to do it. So let me just finish with this, and we discuss that once I'm done with this, because I'm gonna lose my train of thought. But it will happen because we are waiting. We were expecting you to show up for that very reason. So let's finish this up. allegedly it's working now, and it is. So let me show you. I'm gonna select the input. Right now we're gonna be using the same input as I did for my guitar, the DI guitar. So I'm gonna lower the output because it's gonna be super hot, the input of my preamp. And I'm gonna select, it was input number 8. Input 8 selected. And if everything goes according to the plan, there it is. So far you have seen me right now using my hand to control the synthesizer. That's not what I promised. So let's do this. Since we're trying to do it super quickly, I'm gonna do the following. I'm gonna select my MIDI region, the one that I used to create my keyboard progression. Copy, drop in, and see what happens. Awful. But why? Let's go to the mode. These synthesizers or some they need to be actually tuned. So I'm gonna try to make it as complex as possible. Let's see. Yeah, that's as lame as you can go. Okay, there it is. Now let's see how it sounds like. Getting there, getting somewhere. But what about this? This could be a bass line. I'm gonna make sure that all of my notes are selected, and I'm gonna drop them 1 octave down. The command for that is Shift, Option, and down or upwards on your keys. And now, there you got it. As you can see, you can do many things with a DAW. I try to cover as many possible situations on which you might find yourself starting off as a music producer, and I am barely scratching the surface. This is super deep. This is super vast, and it's important for you to understand these principles because from here, the sky is the limit for real. Now, Robbie, according to the coming back to the whole thing with the collaboration, yes, of course, I actually even got the solution to the way to share files correctly without the need of actually creating accounts on anything and many things. Please get in touch with us as soon as this live stream is over through email, please, to the email on the channel. I'm gonna even drop it here. It's bardonmusic@gmail.com. Allegedly. Yeah, it's that guy. Please, just get in touch with us there, and then we're gonna arrange the whole thing because you are gonna be amazed on the way we're gonna do it. It's very badass. It's basically speaking, I would be able to communicate with you here from the studio and be able to hear what you do over there on your end, here in 4K, not 4K, but high res audio. And actually, we can even talk to each other and see each other allegedly in real time. It's very badass. You'll see, it's fantastic technology. And the best part, you don't have to do anything other than downloading a plugin that is free. So, with that being said, I hope to have covered as much ground as I could, because this issue with the amplifier, well, whatever. But the whole point is to make sure that you start off with some form of basis. Music production is daunting. It's very vast. There are many things that can go wrong, as you saw, but there are many ways to fix those issues. And the more you know, the deeper it gets. So it's not that you are going to reach a point in which you can feel confident that you actually know what you're doing. There is always something new. There's always something that can surprise you. And the best part of this is that this is based on creativity. So the more you know, the more possibilities become apparent to you, the crazier and the more audacious your projects will become, hopefully. So I expect to hear any more questions from you throughout the reruns of this show. And of course, I'm going to try to come back to you with a solution with this problem solved, because I do want to show you the whole thing with reamping. I know that the vast majority won't have access to this technology, or due to many factors. But I wanna show it to you because it's still available to you. You can reach great results by understanding how to record correctly your guitars into your DAW. So I will come back to you. I will even dedicate an entire show on how to reamp your guitars. Okay, so that will be the rest of the show for today. Tiago, do you have any point to be made?
No, just make a comment that I like the whole thing about covering a lot of ground, and it's something relating to something that you just mentioned about this being a creative endeavor.
Yes.
The thing about trying to cover this much ground and giving a lot of different insights, regardless of how people may or may not have access to some of these tools right now, is just because if you have the understanding, that can already play a role in how you're gonna tackle the whole development of your own music.
Yeah.
And even you can foresee yourself getting some of the tools later on and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I like the fact that a lot of ground was covered, and I hope that people have enjoyed it as well.
Yes. No, it's not. No, Robbie, answering to that question. No, I don't offer reamping as it is right now because I don't have the time. Right now, the schedule is quite busy, and also the facility right now is not capable of recording guitar cabinets at the moment. There is a reason, a very good reason, but we will show that later. But it's because I want people to be to understand that there is a possibility, because it's badass. It's very, very, very possible for you, and I don't want anybody who doesn't own a good amplifier, for example, to feel that they will never be able to get the recording they wish for, just because they weren't aware that they can actually record their guitars on their end and reamp and for them to be reamped using correct gear without having them to be there at the studio with the producer or owning the gear. So that's the whole point. Yeah, but later on, once the facility is available again, there's gonna be some services including reamping, but for the time being, it's not possible. But yes, so yeah, Robbie, please get in touch with us through email, because that way we can exchange the whole the information required for the whole collaboration to happen. And once that's done, we begin from there. Okay. So yeah, that will be basically it. So thank you very much for joining, and stay tuned, because this is just the beginning of the year, and we got plenty of stupid ideas. And no, man, this year is gonna be bananas. We have plenty of projects going on regarding the channel, and it's gonna be quite good for you on your end. It's gonna be tough on us, but on you it's gonna be badass.
Yeah, it should be interesting.
It should be interesting, at least. It's gonna be interesting. Okay, girls and boys, as usual, the best way for you to support this channel is by listening to our music on Apple Music or Spotify, and also by following us on social media such as Instagram and X, because that's the best way for you to get in touch with us on a much more personal basis. And, well, the only thing left to be said is that you should never let anybody tell you what to dream about. And remember that I will see you until I will see you when we see you. Okay.
It's on your end.
Is it?
It is.
Okay, look at that. Oh, why?
Don't know.
Okay, it's not even here. Okay. See ya.